Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. My channel's gotten big enough that I get a fair number of sponsorship requests, and most of these I just delete. And that's because there's something along the lines of, hey, we've combined addictive mobile gaming with NFTs to create a product that will actively make the world a worse place. And I'm kind of allergic to money, so I just delete those without pursuing them any further. But sometimes something sort of lands in my email inbox that gets me curious. And that's probably my biggest flaw here is curiosity. But this was a product that got me really curious. And that's because it arrived and the pitch was basically, we want to sell medications. So my first thought was, this is going to be great. I'm going to look into this. I'm going to find out all the laws they're breaking, and I will make a video making fun of them. Which was a great idea, except that after I looked into it and I did my research, I couldn't find a law that they were breaking. That doesn't necessarily mean much because it's really hard. Nobody can check all the laws, but it did mean that I couldn't make that as a video topic. The next thing I thought I would do is to investigate whether or not it was a scam. And so I reached out and said, hey, can you send me a sample, on the notion that I would take some of these to a lab and do some testing and find out if they were actually selling what they purport to sell. And this ran into two problems. First, lab testing turns out to be ridiculously expensive, like $5,000 a go kind of expensive. And I plan, I sort of expect that I'm going to make about $8 off this video, and lawyers are not really famed for math, but 5,000 is more than 8. So I kind of thought that was maybe not the most sensible move. The other problem I ran into is that the process involves you talk to a doctor, and then you also talk to a pharmacist, and this stuff comes from a pharmacy. At which point my concerns about whether or not it's fake are kind of misplaced because it comes from an actual pharmacist. So what is the product? Well, it is this thing, the Jase case, and it is basically a little package of antibiotics. Comes in a little zippered thing along with a little guide for how to use antibiotics in an emergency. So that's kind of a useful thing there, and they've got sort of their instructions, and their instructions note, for emergency use when there is no medical help available, contact doctor before use. I kind of think that's an interesting contradiction. If there's no medical help available, how are you supposed to contact a doctor before use? But the idea is that if society is in some sort of state of collapse, either long-term or short-term, maybe you're fleeing from some sort of disaster and you don't really have access to medical, help in any real way, and you get bit by somebody like this guy. Now, you might be thinking this guy's a zombie, and why am I showing you a zombie? I'm kind of thinking this guy is like day 3 into an anime convention and just hasn't been showering or brushing his teeth, and so his bite is probably an infection risk. You don't really want that. So this provides an option. And I'm just going to say, I don't recommend, anybody go and do anything sort of medical on their own. This is very much a talk to a doctor if you possibly have one available. I asked my brother, who's a doctor, about this product, and his notion or his thoughts were basically, what the heck? No. That said, all of that sort of said and done, I'm still kind of happy having this thing on my shelf because I am not sort of a prepper type, but I do like to be prepared for things. I don't have like a bug out bag for I'm going to go live in the wilderness, but I do have a bag for if my house catches fire, this is the bag to grab on the way out that has stuff that I can survive for a few days and, ID so that I can handle all of those things. That's kind of the level of preparedness I try to be at. But I really kind of like having this on a shelf. I don't plan to ever use it, but if I had to, it's nice to know that I could. So that's kind of my thoughts on this one. It's actually a really interesting product because I personally am a believer in people having some medical autonomy and the ability to make some of these choices and to plan ahead. And this is an area where it looks like that's doable, that they can write a prescription for just, this is for the case of emergencies. Now, in a real emergency, if I was building sort of an emergency medical supply, I'd probably want all sorts of things that the government says I can't have, like, say, painkillers. But those, they don't provide those, and those are not available legally. So that's not something that's available. In the event of, getting bit by the anime convention goer, you can at least possibly prevent an infection, but you're not going to be able to do anything about the pain. That's just the legal scenario we're in here. Now, I'm going to give sort of full disclosure as to compensation, because this video is, a paid sponsorship sort of thing. And my compensation is, I got this package, and if you use the promo code below, I get some amount of money. I didn't actually even look, because really the reason why I'm doing this is was super curious about the product. So if you want to buy one of these things, if this is something that you think is, going to potentially be useful for you, and you're planning for what happens if there's no medical care available, use the promo code, or don't. I mean, whichever. And as noted, very much recommend that if at all possible, you go through standard medical channels, because this is an emergency use product only. But anyway, those are kind of my thoughts on this thing. I think it's a really interesting thing, and I think it's kind of a good thing that it's available. So if you'd like one, there's a link below. That's it for this video. Please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to see more content. I also want to thank my Patreon supporters at the $50 level: CCFR, David Michaud, Canada's National Firearms Association, and the Canadian Shooting Sports Association. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited and Jane Babe and Luxor. And at the $20 level, Lindsay Metcalf, Kyle Fox, Haywire, Gerald to the Bailey, Cameron Johnson, Andrew Elsich, and Vicky. Thank you as well to my $10 supporters who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you for watching. I hope this has armed you with knowledge, and see you next time. Oh, and once again, for the YouTube censors on this one, this is a product where they only sell things via a prescription, so it is 100% in keeping with your policies. Please no strike. All right. Thanks, you guys. Cheers.